Hey, it's Raph. I'm 6.5 months on T, 4 months post-op, and it's Halloween weekend, so I'm gonna shoot this video in costume because why not? So I've been living in Canada for like over 3 years now, and November 5 will mark the 1 year anniversary of when my application for permanent residence was approved. And I figured to kind of commemorate that, I would spend this video talking about my experience as a transgender immigrant, and I'm gonna talk about the pros, the cons, and the anxiety that comes with it. So I've broken this video down into 3 parts. The first being how being an immigrant affects my transition, the second being how being trans affects my immigration status, and the third being how does my home country view my transition. As a preface, I'm gonna say that when I talk about transitioning, like the word transitioning throughout this video, what I mean is the social transition of presenting myself as male, going on hormones, aka testosterone, getting top surgery, and changing my legal name and gender marker. Not everyone will be seeking out the same steps that I am. That doesn't make them any less valid. Like, we all transition in our own ways. I'm just saying that this is how I'm doing it. Also, I live in Vancouver, in BC. Most of my experience of Canada is mostly focused to what I've experienced here in Vancouver so far. And now onto the video itself. 1, how being an immigrant affects my transition. We'll go over the pros, the cons, and the anxiety. And for the cons, there's a few. So when I was getting on wait lists for hormones and for surgery and stuff like that, I had been approved for permanent residence, but I didn't get my PR card yet. And to be able to access healthcare here in Canada, you need a services card, and to get a services card, you need a PR card, or like to be a citizen. So for my first round of lab work and stuff like that, I had to pay out of pocket, and then I was kind of worried I would have to pay for surgery out of pocket, but you know, my PR card arrived just in time, and I was able to get my services card just in time, and I was able to go through top surgery and not have to pay for it because Canadian healthcare is great. Thank you, Canada. As a permanent resident, I can't vote. So theoretically, if you all decided to just like vote away trans rights and stuff like that, I would have zero say, absolutely zero say in the matter. As a permanent resident, if I get into any kind of legal trouble or if I get arrested or whatever, I could get deported. I have anxiety literally just walking, like jaywalking, like my partner or my friends will want to like run across the road like Bambi and his friends, and I'm like, I'm gonna like go all the way around to get to the traffic light. As a permanent resident, I don't have a Canadian passport, so if I were to travel, I would have to use the passport from my birth country or home country or whatever, and I can't change my name or my gender marker on that passport, so I'm gonna be dealing with awkward border official interactions if I were ever to travel anytime soon. I mean, that said, once I qualify for and I'm approved for citizenship, theoretically, most of what I said earlier wouldn't apply anymore, except of course maybe getting arrested. I'm still probably gonna be anxious about that no matter what. My safe word is pineapple. And now for the pros of how being an immigrant affects my transition. On the bright side, there are some parts of my transition that would be a little bit smoother than it would be for a Canadian citizen. Primarily, the birth certificate. Typically, a Canadian citizen, if they wanted to change their legal name and gender marker, they would have to change their birth certificate first and then process everything else after that. But you know, that's not always an option for people from other countries. Good luck telling the Philippines to acknowledge that trans people exist. So in that regard, processing the legal name change and gender stuff like that's a little bit smoother because we don't have to deal with the birth certificate stuff. That's about it. Like, that's the only pro I can think of, really. And now for the anxiety, aka how people's perception of me and my race will affect how they treat me and how they behave around me. I'm not saying that white people don't go through any sort of like tough times. We all go through tough times as trans people, but a white trans person will not have to worry about a few things that I have to worry about. They wouldn't have to worry the way I do of getting into like some kind of legal trouble and ending up deported. Yeah, you're gonna go through the trauma of getting arrested for whatever reason, and that's a whole thing, but at least you wouldn't have to worry about getting shipped off to a not great country. As people read me more and more as a Latin looking dude, I'm gonna get more Karens judging me and looking at me and eyeing me warily. I'm gonna get more security following me around the grocery store. That's gonna be a whole thing. And now we're getting into part 2. How does being trans affect my immigration status? Given that I had not initiated my transition until after I got approved for permanent residence, it wasn't the biggest factor, but I am mentally preparing myself for when I'm ready to apply for Canadian citizenship, and they're gonna have to go through all the paperwork, and then they're gonna see the name change and the gender change and like see the discrepancies, and I know that's gonna be a whole thing for a little bit, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And now we're coming into part 3 of this video, and that is how does my home country legally see and recognize my transition. My Philippine documents, I can't change my name or my gender marker or anything like that. Like, technically, I can change my name, my first name, but that's like a whole process that involves applying for it, and typically it doesn't usually work. So yeah. On the subject of trans rights and access to care in Canada versus in the Philippines, that's gonna be a whole more involved video I do want to do eventually. But the short answer is, in Canada, we have rights, and in the Philippines, we do not. That said, there is a trans dude that has some really good videos for what his experience has been like transitioning in the Philippines and how his day-to-day life plays out over there. I'm gonna put a link to his channel down below in the description box, or I'm gonna put like a card somewhere up here. Either way, check out his channel, check out his stuff. It's some really good, really informative things. I'm also going to be putting down some relevant links in the description box so you can get more detailed info on some of what I covered today. So be sure to check out Vincent's channel if you can, and hopefully this video was interesting or entertaining or insightful in some way. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, because I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. And once I do, once I have 100 plus, I'm going to be able to change my URL. And that way, when I send someone a link to my channel, it's not going to be long and cringy and full of random characters. And so my next video is probably going to be 4 months post-op. I'm going to put an update video on that, and I'll see you then. Bye!